Changing the sound of your kick drum can change the vibe of the whole drum kit. Here's everything you need to know to create your perfect bass drum sound. Art of Drumming is not just a YouTube channel, but also a free platform where you can find numerous drum-related courses filmed by major international artists. Head on over and join our growing community. The bass drum is the largest instrument in a standard drum kit. In most pop and rock contexts, you want the bass drum to be the foundation of a groove and feature low end and attack. But depending on the musical situation, the required qualities of the bass drum sound differ a lot. From very clicky to super warm, from muffled to pretty open. Here are the 5 topics you need to take into consideration when searching for your own bass drum sound. The first step when finding your bass drum sound is choosing the drum itself. While different wood types and shell constructions can definitely make a difference, the biggest influence comes from the shell size. The tuning range is linked directly to the shell size. A smaller drum can be tuned higher and a bigger drum can go way lower. Besides that, small bass drums like 16 or 18-inch models are very direct, but limited in volume due to their small size and the amount of air they are able to move. If you look at bigger drums like 24 or even 26-inch ones, they can produce a lot more low end and volume, but when it comes to soft low volume playing, they sound less direct than small ones. So for soft jazzy playing, a smaller, higher tuned bass drum like this 18-inch model works great. When you're looking for a full and fat rock sound, a 24-inch like this one might be good. Keep in mind that when it comes to live gigs or studio work, a close mic can make even a low-volume bass drum sound huge. But when playing without amplification, the volume range is a decisive factor on whether a bass drum works within your music or not. While the diameter of the drum is essential for the tuning range, the depth of a shell predetermines the tone length and directness of the drum. Shorter shells are more direct and feature less tone, while longer ones, with more air moving inside the drum, create more tone and also more volume. Before talking about drum heads, let's have a short look at the bearing edges. If you want a warm and softer sound, round bearing edges work great. For a modern sound with a quite clear attack, standard 45-degree bearing edges will do the trick. The bearing edge changes how the drumhead sits on the shell, and therefore changes how the drumhead interacts with the shell. If you're looking for a versatile drum and a modern sound, a 20 or 22-inch drum with 45-degree bearing edges will do the trick. For the rest of the video, we'll stick with our 22-inch Sonor ProLite kick drum. This will give you the best comparison possible. The miking setup for all upcoming demo sequences is a dynamic TGD70 bass drum mic, an M201 paired with a TGD58 on the snare, an M160 on the hi-hat, and 2 large diaphragm condenser MC740s as overheads. The bass drum signal itself is completely dry without any EQ or compression, and all other channels only have a bit of EQing going on. A bass drum usually has 2 drum heads, a batter and a reso head. For both sides, there are basically 2 types of drum heads you can find out there, undampened and pre-dampened. Let's get into 3 of the most popular batter heads, the Remo Ambassador, the Remo Power Stroke 3, and the Evans EMAD. The Ambassador is a single-ply drumhead without any muffling at all. This drumhead will create an open tone and produce the most low end due to the single-ply construction. The Power Stroke 3 is a pre-dampened drumhead that features a dampening ring on the inside. This one reduces the tone and overtones and shortens the overall sound. Due to the reduced tone, the attack will stand out more than with the undampened Ambassador. The third drumhead is the EMAD, which features a lot more dampening. The drumhead comes with 2 different exchangeable foam inlays and features an even more focused attack and minimizes the tone. For our demo sequence, we used the thicker foam inlay. Here are all 3 heads back to back in a similar tuning. There are all sorts of drumheads out there, and all companies have their unique designs. This is why we decided to show you only the 3 most common ones. In general, the principles you see here can be translated to other heads as well. What changes is basically how muffled the drum sounds straight away. Another thing to mention are coated versus clear drumheads. While all 3 of the ones you just heard are coated, clear drumheads feature a little more attack. Coated heads, however, sound a little warmer and have a softer attack. Here's the direct comparison between 2 Power Stroke 3 drumheads, one coated and one clear. Due to the mic usually being placed at the reso side and not capturing the initial attack of the beater outside the drum, the effect is pretty small. The difference between coated and clear drumheads is the same with all drumhead models. Now let's talk about the reso head. The main difference is whether you have a closed reso head or one with a porthole. To give you the best idea of what changes if you cut a hole in the reso head or even remove the reso head completely, here's the Sonor ProLite kick drum with a single ply ambassador as a reso head. Once with a closed head, then with a porthole, and then without the reso head. Most bass drums come with a stock reso head that is based on a design similar to the Power Stroke 3, featuring a dampening ring inside the drumhead. This changes the tone and controls the sustain. Here is an ambassador versus the stock Power Stroke, both with portholes in the same position. If you're looking for an open sound, single ply undampened heads on both sides work best. If you want to achieve a short, controlled modern pop sound, you should consider using pre-dampened heads on both sides and adding a porthole. Now let's talk about tuning. Once you've chosen the drum heads and installed them on your kick drum, you need to get them in tune. Just like with all other drums, try to match the pitch on all lugs to get a clear tone. A great way to hear the pitch of the lugs better is to use a mallet and tap close to the rim. When your drum heads are in tune, the big question is how high or low you want to tune them and how each of the 2 heads affect the sound. To discuss this topic, you need to understand the role both heads play. The batter head is decisive for the attack and the pitch, while the reso head changes the tone and the sustain. Let's check out the batter head first. To give you an idea of how the sound changes, here is the same batter head, once in a very low tuning and then in a medium-high one. A low, almost loose batter head has a very clear and punchy attack, while a higher tuning has more tone and a softer touch. Now let's do the same with a reso head. The batter head is tuned pretty low, and all we did here was alter the tuning of the reso head. It's surprising to hear that the higher reso head has more low end than the lower tuned one. So if you're looking for more low end in your kick drum sound, try to tune the reso head up a little instead of tuning it very low. The effect is huge. Once you have your drum in tune and the pitch is where you want it to be, you need to decide if you want the drum to sound as open as it does right away, or if you're looking for a shorter, more focused sound. When dealing with a closed reso head, you have to place the muffling inside the drum before installing the reso head. With a porthole, you can simply put it in afterwards. While some drums come with pre-installed muffling tools like these pillows, here are 3 simple ways to muffle your kick drum without any special equipment. The first might be the most popular one. Simply take a blanket and place it inside your kick drum. The effect changes depending on whether you place a blanket against the batter, the reso, or both heads. Here's a direct comparison with all 3 options. All of those work great for certain situations. Try them yourself and find out which one works best for you. Another classic way of muffling a bass drum is using a felt strip. This muffling tool is installed under the drumhead, and you can use it with a reso and the better side. Here's the effect it has on a drumhead, demonstrated with a single ply reso head. This technique is especially popular with closed reso heads and works great if you're looking for a vintage-like sound. Now let's go even further and check out what a lot of muffling does to your kick drum. We got 4 regular pillows, which we then put inside the bass drum one after the other. We also made sure they touch both drum heads in all 4 versions. While the drum loses a lot of volume when there is lots of muffling inside, the attack clearly stands out, and you have a very short and controlled sound. If you're looking for a very articulated sound for double kick playing, for example, this might be an interesting thing to look into. There are tons of different muffling tools out there that you can choose from, but the effect will be similar to what you just saw. It's impressive to see how much you can shape the sound of your bass drum, even without changing the drum heads or touching a single tension rod. Last but not least, when you've prepared the drum the way you want it, you can alter the sound further by choosing the right beater. The beater changes a lot when it comes to the initial attack of your bass drum sound. While harder materials like plastic or wood give you a very clear attack, softer ones with felt or even very soft ones like this one will have a warmer and softer touch. Make sure the beater hits the drum in the middle of the head to get the fullest sound. This is why you should consider using a riser with smaller kick drums. Here are 3 beaters in a direct comparison. The weight difference between the beaters will definitely lead to changes regarding your pedal setting. This is essential to keep a similar playing feel even with a completely different beater. Just as with muffling tools, there are countless different beaters out there with different materials, designs, and different sizes. This factor is often overlooked, but can be the small change that lifts your bass drum sound from an okay sound to the perfect one for a certain song. Now that you got an overview of all these topics, you know how many factors can influence the sound of the single drum. Sometimes small changes can cause huge differences in sound, so make sure to play around and get familiar with all those options. The better you know your own kick drum, the more options you have with customizing its sound, without even changing a single drum head. Tell us about your personal experience with kick drum sound and what you like to do with your own drum. Do you like open and boomy sound, or is it a short and clicky version that makes you happy? If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date with all our upcoming videos.